On April 11th, 2012, I started my hike on the Appalachian Trail. I was 22 years old. And on April 12th, I found myself completely lost and utterly alone. The Appalachian Trail is a 2,185-mile trek that spans the length between Georgia and Maine, going through 14 states. Today I'm going to talk to you about 3 fears that I experienced on the trail and how this positively affected my life. I guess I should tell you that my ultimate fear prior to hiking the trail was getting lost. I would think about it all the time, and honestly, I would just like stay up at night and be like, what would happen if I got lost in the woods? Would the Blair Witch come? Like that, I was that kid that was scared of the dark, you guys. But honestly, I reassured myself, you know, leading up to the months leading up to leaving for the trail, that I would not be so careless and I would not get lost. So back on the trail, as I was hiking, I was following the white blazes that indicated that I was on the Appalachian Trail, which inexplicably, they started turning into white diamonds, and then all of a sudden, unmarked, bare, naked trees. I found myself 6 miles in the middle of Georgia, having no idea where I was. And it was pretty frightening. And you know when you're young and you're at your friend's sleepover and you just want to go home, so you call your parents to come and pick you up? Well, that's exactly what I did. I called my parents, and thanks, Mom and Dad. I talked to them for a really long time, and I was like, I am scared shitless and I don't know what to do. But they were in Vermont and I was in Georgia. So I had to hunker down and make camp right then and there. My dad had insisted I would use this tiny Swiss Army knife, and when I pitched my tent, I crawled in there and lay rigid, wide awake with this tiny Swiss Army knife clutched white-knuckled to my chest, looking at this tent that was so wimpy and the material so weak that could honestly be swiped down in one swipe of a bear's paw. And as I lay there, staring up at this tent, I was thinking, oh my God, this is the 2nd day and I have 170 odd more days of this. And I'm not even kidding you, I fell asleep to the sound of coyotes howling throughout the night. I woke up the next morning and I was alive. I could not believe it. I slept through my worst fear, and honestly, I think A, I was so unprepared, but also B, I was incredibly exhausted from the beginning miles of the trail that I think I just fell asleep naturally. And when I woke up, I had this sense of gratitude just come over me. Everything that I was scared of, that I experienced that night, I was able to wake up and I was okay. I was still the same person. And ever since then, I decided that I would lean into fear. That this was actually the best thing that could have happened to me on the trail. That I was able to live through my worst fear and I was still Eva, I was still okay. And so with this new outlook in life, I decided to really accept fear as something that was good in my life and not try and run away from it. From unpredictable fears to long-term fears, I really tried to lean in and really think about this as a positive involvement. And the trail is really funny because all the minutiae on the trail is so exaggerated because you really have no distractions. And so my second fear, a primal, unexpected fear that I experienced, happened in Virginia. I was walking upon this ridgeline. It was absolutely gorgeous. There was ferns. It was very lush, very green, with this forest of canopy opening up to either side of you. And there was these beautiful purple and blue and dusty pink mountains on either side. And as one does on the trail, I was hiking with my head down in my own thoughts when I look up, and 25 feet in front of me, in the middle of the trail, is a mountain lion. I was completely petrified. This was a completely unexpected fear, and I had no idea what to do. And as I had this stare down with this mountain lion, this incredibly beautiful, powerful beast, eyes unwavering as she stared right back at me, I just froze, and my body just completely stood still. And I thought, I am gonna die. I am going to die right here, and I cannot run from this thing. I have a 60-pound pack. My Swiss Army knife is located at the bottom of my pack, and I cannot retrieve it. I would not be able to win this fight against this mountain lion. So I just accepted it. I accepted that I wasn't going to win. And as we stared at each other, this beautiful, insanely powerful beast, this wave of calm just came over me, and I was at peace. It was insane. It was incredible. And as we were staring at each other, her eyes unwavering, all of a sudden, she broke her gaze, and she slinks her body through the ferns, and her shoulders undulating like waves. She goes up upon this boulder and sits on her perch and sits calmly, powerfully, beautifully, and looks out into the land before her. And I'm like standing there like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, I'm freaking out. So she sits on her perch, and I'm standing there just watching what's happening. And all of a sudden, she turns around and she looks at me over her shoulder, and she just looks at me. And as if she acknowledged me once before, she was acknowledging me again, saying, okay, I see you, and you have to keep going. And so that's what I did. I kept walking. I don't know how, but I kept walking. So the last glimpse I had of her before rounding the bend, she was still on her perch, sitting on her boulder, powerful, peaceful, surveying the land, paying me no mind. And it was incredible. And out of that surrender that I felt with this mountain lion, I also felt so many things, but the most powerful thing I felt was this power that I had withheld all of my life, just brimming upon the edges of myself, ready to overflow. And it was incredible. I had never felt so confident and so peaceful and so just completely me. And ever since that moment with the mountain lion on the trail, everything started to fall into place. I really felt independent and confident in my own womanhood. And part of my intention of hiking the trail was to be okay in my solitude and really just own myself and own my womanhood and get to know myself. It was great. So I finally accepted that fear of aloneness. And ironically, once I accepted that I was going to be alone, that I was going to spend 5.5 months on the trail, I met a boy. I met him upon this creek bed, upon a ridge line, or upon a mountain, ominously named Blood Mountain. And he was this crazy Southern man who had a tattoo of a bright green frog on his belly. And he was just like, had this magnetic energy, and people were just drawn to him. And he was only supposed to be on the trail for 1 week. After that week was over, he quit his job and decided to hike the trail in its entirety. The trail has a way of inducing trail magic, and honestly, I have learned that people are inherently good because of the trail. When we met, he offered me half of his Snickers bar, which is a coveted power food on the trail, and not something to take lightly. And in return, I offered to do his laundry, which I failed miserably at. It's really hard to clean clothes in a creek. And ever since that day, we decided to hike every single day together. Or just it became natural that we hiked every single day together. And because we had only miles to kill in time, we talked, and we talked a lot. We talked about our families and our dreams. We talked about our fears and our hopes. We primarily talked about the food that we missed, like grapefruit and romaine lettuce, weirdly enough. And we even hiked naked together on Hike Naked Day, which is a national holiday on the summer solstice on the trail. So needless to say, we learned a lot about each other, and there was little that we did not know about each other. And with each passing mile and each passing landmark and each passing state, my love for this man really grew to scare me. And I had this doom that was looming over me because we had a time limit to our relationship. It was going to be over on Katahdin, which is the last mountain on the AT. And I wanted to keep walking through life with this man by my side. And so, like with the mountain lion, and like a very different beast that's just as wild and untamed, I looked into this man's eyes and told him I loved him in New Jersey, of all places. We decided to do long distance for a little bit. I stayed in Vermont, which is where I'm from, and he went down to Nashville. And then I decided to lean in again and make the jump and move down to Nashville, which I've lived in for 5 years. And my hiking partner, the man I met my 3rd day, we have been married for 1 year. And to this day, I am so incredibly grateful that I met my lifetime trail mate on the trail, and that he can remind me all the gifts that the AT has given me, and the lessons that I keep learning every day. One of the most important things I learned is that fear is something that's so beautiful and delicate and something that we shouldn't run away from. And that fear is actually not a summit to overcome, but really something that is inevitable, whatever shape or form it takes. And that it'll drive us to the lightness or darkness, whichever we may choose. It'll inspire us despite the pain of putting one blistered foot in front of the other, despite the destination, and really focus on the journey. And so many things scared me on the trail, and things still scare me. Public speaking, for example, is a very real fear of mine. In everyday life, I find myself that I fall victim to really not being present. And us thru hikers called this the real world. And on the trail, every single step counts. There are no screens on the trail. Dating is reduced to sharing a Snickers bar, and I would not recommend dating because it's not the most hygienic pastime. You're not showering and you wear the same clothes every day. But there's no status, there's no caste, there are no careers, and there are even no real names. On the trail, all you really have are your given trail name, the thoughts in your head, and whatever you can carry on your back. You are a completely stripped, raw, organic version of yourself, and you have no choice but to see yourself for who you really are. And so, like with the mountain lion, if we choose to observe and acknowledge and look and see what's standing right in front of us and accept that fear, instead of being at its mercy, I promise you, life will become that much more adventurous. Thank you.